and welcome to the 5-Minute Business Boost, where you get to choose your 5-minute investment. I'm your host, Sam Hicks, and I'll be discussing topics under the headings of business development, marketing, photography, and much more. Today's guest on the 5-Minute Business Boost is Lynda McAlary-Smith. Now, Lynda is the Small Business Commissioner here in Victoria. So the Victorian Small Business Commission, or VSBC, because we love a good acronym, is a statutory authority that empowers Victorian small businesses through advocacy, dispute resolution and education. By championing the rights of small businesses, the VSBC works to foster a fair, competitive environment where enterprise and innovation can thrive. Now, the VSBC offers low-cost and accessible dispute resolution services across a wide range of areas, including business-to-business disagreements, business-to-government disputes, retail leasing, franchising, farm debt, and conflicts involving owner-drivers and rideshare operators. Supporting business owners, the Commission provides preliminary information and pre-mediation assistance to help resolve issues early and facilitates confidential, independent mediation sessions when needed. Beyond dispute resolution, however, the VSBC educates business owners through events, resources and advisory services. Its website and helpline deliver practical information, while ongoing initiatives and partnerships enhance small business knowledge, resilience and growth in the Victorian economy. As our Commissioner, Lynda brings personal experience from her business upbringing and a career as a lawyer and a senior executive. She's committed to creating a fair and competitive environment for Victorian small businesses, advocating for their rights, providing support as they recover from pandemic, and working collaboratively with stakeholders to remove barriers to justice. Aside from her regulatory work, Lynda also serves as an ambassador for the Australian Cervical Council Foundation, championing women's health and strong communities. So welcome to the 5-Minute Business Boost, Lynda. It's great to have you.
Thanks so much, Sam. It's lovely to be chatting to you today.
Oh, I'm really chuffed. Now, on your form, you had one wild fact, and that is that you grew 3 centimetres overnight this year. Is that true?
It is true, right? And you wouldn't believe it, would you? But I've got the MRI scans to prove it. Yeah, I had a spinal fusion. And for those of you who I haven't met in person, I'm pretty vertically challenged. So the fact that I've gained 3 centimetres overnight, I was extremely excited about. In fact, I've barely stopped talking about it since. Hence the reason I shamelessly took the opportunity to showcase that as my wild fact. They inserted a metal cage in the middle of 2 of my vertebrae and then screwed and realigned my spine with screws. Like they had to realign my spine and screw it into place and stuff. So I'm not going into too much detail lest people are eating or, a bit squeamish. But but the end result is, yes, my torso grew 3 centimetres overnight. So crazily, I'm taller than I've ever been in my whole life. So I'm pretty...
Goodness.
Still vertically challenged, but I've been promoted from a 5'2" to, let's round it up to 5'3".
You're taking that and running with it.
I am indeed.
I love it. So I've got a few questions for you today. Now, the first one is visiting Murrindindi and the SBFC, which you'll talk about that in a minute. What stuck with you as a commissioner in your role as the single most interesting challenge?
Oh, like one thing that I really was just totally not on my radar and that I hadn't anticipated at all. And I think this is a reflection of the importance of remembering the importance of place and how that drives and influences how our businesses operate and can operate and the challenges they face in Victoria, because it was actually the deers. So, and I know I mentioned that at the time, but that was the impact that has on businesses in terms of, both the number and the behaviour of the deers and, that being really hyper local, but really huge impact on businesses. And I think sometimes people within policy designers and decision makers can sometimes fall into a trap of kind of going metro and regional like as two buckets, and maybe potentially there's people go City of Melbourne, for example, like, and then so maybe they might say there's three buckets, but lumping regional into just one big bucket when it's just not true, like, and it's that incredible experience that you have at a local level that really impacts people day to day. So I have to own up, I had no idea that deers were to the extent of the problem or a problem at all in terms of that, and just the regulatory overlay with that. So yeah, that was a big surprise to me. So again, one of the many reasons why it's so important just to get out and talk to people.
I appreciate the fact that you actually understand really well the difference between metro and regional, because, we bang on and about up here in regional areas that we are a little bit different than our city cousins. So I really appreciate you nominating that as a challenge. Now let's talk a little bit about the SBFC, because we love a good acronym. What is included in the Small Business Friendly Charter? I had no idea of this existing. And what are the benefits for both parties from your point of view?
And I'm so pleased that Murrumbidgee has signed up to it, and we're actually now at 68. So 68 of the 79 councils in Victoria have signed the Small Business Friendly Charter, which is amazing. And sort of at a really high level, the intent is that council, puts their money where their mouth is in terms of being really supportive of small businesses, and is really clear about how they're going to support small businesses, and is proud about that, and to the extent that they're prepared to be held accountable to that. So, it's basically a partnership with the Small Business Commission. So we're an independent statutory agency that set up to support small businesses. So, and part of that is creating an environment where they can have a fair chance of being able to compete properly in terms of with different opportunities. So there's a number of different commitments under the Charter. So one of which I know is very close to your heart, is around supporting the growth and continued vibrancy of local business networks. Those community connections, which are so important. It's helping small businesses to manage disruptions to trade that might be caused by infrastructure work. So if councils digging up footpaths or doing other stuff, whatever, that, they're letting businesses know in advance. The consulting shock horror with businesses about when might be the time. So I kid you not, metro example, but one of the major energy companies down here was planning on doing a power outage at one in inner city, just in Richmond, and it was of a night time, like, so on the face of it, cool, fine, most people in bed, but it just happened to be a pub around the corner from the MCG when the international rugby series was on. So it's just stuff like that, right? So so not turning the power off, for example, which they didn't, because they changed their mind, which is good. Also permit approvals, because businesses, as you know, have to get bogged down in so many different permits, and you need a master's in understanding which one, never mind then doing all the paperwork. So committing to doing that faster and ideally digitising it, and also getting rid of permits that aren't actually required. Paying their small businesses on time. So there'll be many small businesses who within Murrumbidgee who are suppliers to council in some different way, and making sure that they get paid really promptly. So because cash flow is obviously critical for any business, but particularly small businesses. And then the final two relate directly to the partnership with the Small Business Commission, which is providing clear and accessible information to the small business community about what VSBC can do, and then also open lines of communication between the Small Business Commission and the council as well too. So then, look, none of it's rocket science, but it's a really important flag, I guess, a signpost to the community that council is prepared to sign up to this stuff, takes it seriously, and they're happy to report to us on how they're going, and or reach out for help and say, you know what, we're not where we want to be on this particular commitment. How can you help?
Yeah. Wow. Congratulations on getting, 68 out of the 79.
Yeah.
My goodness, you must be chuffed as commissioner to have that kind of sign up and agreement. That is, wow.
Absolutely. It's great. And to be really candid, there's probably a couple that I won't sign up because I'm not prepared to sign them up because I don't think they're small business friendly, who shall remain unnamed. So it works both ways, right? Like it's if you want to come to the party, we have to want you at the party as well too. So watch, now everyone's going to look up which councils are not on the list.
Oh, it's still a huge result. So given that you're out and about and you're talking to councils and you're talking to small businesses, what is the one key challenge? And I know this is a blanket statement or question, but what is the key challenge facing all Victorian small businesses and both regional and metro? It's a bit of a loaded question, but you must have a good overview.
Yeah, absolutely. There's an easy answer to that: increased cost of doing business. And that's an umbrella for obviously lots of different stuff, but absolutely just the increased cost of doing business in every aspect of running the business. So that could be, insurance. It can be, well, if you can get insurance, and then, how affordable it is or not. I've seen some businesses who've had business interruption insurance quotes that are more than their revenue for the year. So that might be in theory available, but it's not actually. And, energy costs are obviously through the roof for everybody as well. Then there might be pressures around what you're paying in rent, just the general inflationary. We've coming off a high inflationary environment and difficult trading conditions, which means it's just more expensive to buy stuff that you need for a business. It's more expensive to deliver your business. So, if you're producing things, you need stuff to make that happen. If you're doing services, you so many inputs. So that would be absolutely the biggest thing. And of course, some of the additional, fees that businesses have to pay to different parts of government obviously feed into that as well too. But definitely that's, I think, the number one thing that's keeping businesses up at night at the moment.
Okay, so this is another question that I think hopefully follows on from that, and that is around advocacy or policy involvement. What does that look like for you around this challenge? Like, I am assuming as Commissioner, you would see opportunities to feed into policy or to advocate on behalf of all us small businesses. Thank you, by the way. What does that look like for you?
Oh, absolutely. And look, it's one of the really powerful points of why the Commission was set up in the first place and why I'm actually an independent statutory appointment, which in short means unless I'm really naughty or go bankrupt, I can't be removed from my office for the period of my appointment, which means I'm really free and comfortable to speak truth to everybody. And, sometimes that's less well received. That's okay. That's also a bit of fun from my end. But it's really important because it means that I'm not worried about pulling punches when I'm talking to governments, all levels of government about if things are going well or if they're not going well as well. Because I'm not worried about, am I going to lose my job? Because my job solely is to advocate for small businesses and lead the commission. So one of the ways in which is really unpacking that and seeing for my sins in a former life, I've spent a fair bit of time in the public service, which, a deep vocation for services to the community. And it's understanding, I think, where the opportunities are to changes. So, for example, if you've got insurance is the one I mentioned earlier too. So, okay, well, whose challenge is that? Where can there be influences in terms of that? Because that might be at a whole of national level in terms of how reinsurance works. It's sometimes directly with corporates, with the private sector in terms of the way certain insurers might be behaving or treating a particular small business, goes into, community resilience, planning, emergency preparation. So it's really looking at all of those challenges that you have and breaking it down to go, right, who's got some skin in the game here and who's got some levers. And that's one of the benefits of my role is that I can roam across anything basically that relates to small business. So I can stick my nose and pick up the phone and talk to anyone I kind of want, which is pretty cool. And it means I can think really creatively around it. So when you're dealing with things like this, a really important part is feeding into the policy designers and decision makers the real stories of what this actually looks like. Like you need all the real data and the number crunching and the evidence to be able to tell your story and advocate properly, but you also need the colour and movement of the stories behind it. Like you're not going to get a politician or a policy designer to change their mind because they hear a single sad story. Challenging story. You've got to have the evidence. It's got to be grounded in evidence, but you've also got to make it real, that this is not abstract, that this is what Jenny or John or their experience was, and this is the real impact on them, their business and their families. So that's the way I sort of approach it, is to be relentless in the pursuit of where there might be opportunities and think really creatively. So I, for example, meet with all the major banks on a regular basis, picking their brains about all the data they're seeing about what we're all spending our money on in real time, all that kind of stuff. I meet with one of the deputies from the RBA, like around what they're seeing from the economic lens. So I just try to be really present and always make sure that small businesses are at the forefront of decision makers' minds as well.
Wow. Thank you from one small business to the Commissioner. Your honesty and around that true advocacy and telling our stories. How important is that? So thank you for doing that. That's, wow.
Thank you for the work you've done in that space too, Sam, in advance when I was in town recently, and the great work that you were doing in that space too, because again, it's the stories, but it's putting it with some evidence behind as well that then becomes really influential as well.
Yeah, well, I love doing what I do, and because I meet with so many businesses, not as many as you, but, you do see the common themes and challenges, and I just document everything because, when opportunities come up, such as meeting with yourself, and I asked Murray and Lynda, I said, do you mind if I put forth a document? And they were like, Sam, just do it.
Yeah,
please, because they wanted to know too, because, they hear things at their level. And I think you're right. The more stories backed up with fact that we can put on the table, the better for everybody as far as either changing policy or, having an edgeway into it to say, hey, can we consider something else that may work better for us all? So, okay, so can you explain to me the difference between, or the relationship, I suppose, between Small Business Victoria and yourself? Because I'm assuming there's a bit of a partnership or a friendship there.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. So it's like a Venn diagram and the overlap in the middle. So Small Business Victoria is part of the State Department of Job, Skills, Industries and Region, which is the portfolio department that we sit within. So we're an independent separate agency, and Small Business Vic, like where the difference is they hold like the pen, if you like. They hold the pen for policy development for the government to consider, and they also do a range of things around grants and program delivery and services. So there's a great website that they've got, business.vic.gov. They've got a fantastic newsletter. Everyone signed up to it during COVID for the money, but now they've stayed. They've had a really good retention rate because they've stayed because their content is really business focused. So almost 150,000 small businesses get their regular newsletter, which is amazing. So they're doing the policy design, and so grant programs, for example, would be delivered by Small Business Victoria. And so where we work, we're kind of like, as you said, kind of friends, cousins, that kind of adjacent. So we work very closely together and sharing intelligence, but that independence is really important too. Because if I think there's something that, that they're not doing or the department's doing, I need to be able to free to say that to them. One of the best things I think that they value from the Commission is, aside from all the statutory dispute resolution we do, people will just tell me stuff, including really senior stakeholders that are constantly dealing with politicians and departments. They will tell me stuff that they won't necessarily tell a department because they're worried maybe about a grant program, or will that then mean they won't be included in the next consultation or something like this. So it's a real-time intelligence that I feed into them. So we've got a great relationship with Small Business Victoria, and I think that's really important because it doesn't help small businesses if the cousins are fighting against each other. It's most important if we're working collaboratively in our own swim lanes, but, waving to each other and, keeping each other up to speed about what we're doing at the same time as well.
Oh, it's so important. I mean, the Small Business Victoria's website has gone from strength to strength. I can remember when I first started out, it didn't have a lot of bones. It didn't have a lot of meat at all. Now it's almost like a one-stop resource. And
absolutely,
I love referring small businesses to it because I know they're either going to find a template, they can sign up to the newsletter, or they can find out what's actually happening. And it's all tailored to small business. So I'm pleased that you guys play so well in the sandbox of small business, because we all reap the benefit of that. So,
absolutely.
Wow, that's really cool to understand that relationship. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I would like you to talk me through a bit of a case study. So this is really about inspiring small businesses who may know about what you guys do, but it's really about them, picking up the phone and engaging with you guys or an email. Because at the meeting in Murrindindi, I did not know. I probably heard it and it just went in one ear and out the other. But you guys deal with a whole range of different issues and problems and so forth that small business might come up with, in particularly farm debt. But is there something, a case study that, I don't know, maybe it's affected you and how you guys dealt with it, or a positive outcome? Can you share something like that?
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I'll pause a bit as I'm talking because I've got to be really careful because it's all super confidential.
Yes, that's right.
And can't be identifying anything. But we've actually got like so many examples of where the support we've provided in dispute res has changed people's lives, like for the better. Over the time, in this role, I've met small businesses who've been supported by the Commission through dispute resolution at some point in their journey, and sometimes they were crying. There's two I'll share with you quickly. One was about farm debt. Another one was about sort of helping. We'd had a business that was in a premises that they'd been in forever. It was an industry where it was really difficult for them to move premises. So if they had to move premises, they were just going to have to close the business. It wasn't economically viable to move. And they wanted to, it was the premises was up for sale. So they were the tenant, and they were, the numbers all stacked up, the accountant and everything that, it should have just been a tick and flick really from the bank to kind of go, you're all good to go. Go ahead and wave your hand as high as you like at the auction and sign yourself up to a lifetime of debt, like go for it. And it had just gotten bogged down hugely. And I got a call on the Friday afternoon from a stakeholder saying to me that they were supporting this particular business, this small business, and, the bank wasn't, have been ages and ages that they've been waiting for an answer. And the auction was the following Wednesday. And this was the Friday. And the answer they were getting back from someone in the bank was, it was the government's fault. And they were like, look, I know this maybe isn't necessarily, it's not in your dispute res, but from your advocacy point of view. And I was like, well, firstly, that doesn't sound right. Like, the government's fault, like, sure. I mean, the government's plural are to blame for lots and lots of things, as we know. Yeah. But getting your loan application processed is unlikely to be one of them. Anyway, so because I mentioned before, we catch up regularly with the big banks and stuff like that, I reached out to a senior person in the particular bank and said, look, I'm not sticking my nose in your commercial decisions and your risk assessments and deciding whether or not you're loaning anyone money, but this has been dragging on for donkeys. This property is up for sale on Wednesday. For the love of all that is magical, can you please not come back with an answer on Thursday that, you could bid at the auction, that they just couldn't bid up the day before. So can you have a look at it? Because from what I'm hearing and seeing from this small business experience with this really big organisation, i.e. you guys, it's probably stuck in the machine somewhere. Like it's just, can you just go and have a look? Anyway, so the bank ended up working all over the weekend, that sort of stuff. Happy story, because the small business was able to bid at the auction because they got the loan approved. They were able to bid at the auction on the Wednesday, buy the premises. Business continued. This was a business that employed a stack of apprentices and stuff as well too. Like had a number of employees, and the text messages, like the business owner crying, whenever I see them, they get really emotional, all this kind of stuff. So I guess it's that ability to use our influence in ways that's not necessarily difficult for us to do it, but can have a huge impact in a real way. And my phone's going to be running hot after I've told that story, by the way. But the other one would be around farm debt. So farm debt mediation. So they're really tricky, our mediations with farm debt. So for those who aren't aware of it, it's basically a financier can't take enforcement action with a farm mortgage or some machinery debt relating to farming effectively until they get a permission, like a certificate literally from me that they're allowed to do that. And the whole idea is that it brings the banks, usually it's the banks, together with the farmers and often rural financial counsellors, just to try and figure out what's the best way forward.
Yep.
So farm debt came in, sadly, because of the very high rates of death by suicide in our farming communities, for farmers in financial pressure and not feeling that there was a way forward. So, there's been so many instances where I just see incredible results come out of that, where the banks will go into it with good spirit and good faith and good heart. They'll, renegotiate on terms. I have to be careful because I don't want to rat the banks out too much, because then they might stop doing some of the good stuff that they're doing in the mediations if I tell everyone what they're up to. So it is a balance. But what I can say is there's instances where many instances where farmers have been able to restructure the way that they operate. If they have needed to sell property or part of a property, they've been able to do that ostensibly what looks like under their own steam, so they're not taking a haircut because people know you're under pressure. And most importantly, the family impact.
Yes.
It's almost in 100% of our farm debt mediations involves intergenerational challenges and often conflict. You're dealing with elder abuse, you're dealing with succession planning, you're dealing all the normal stuff that happens in people's lives, like family breakdowns, separations, grief, loss of jobs, all that kind of stuff. And then you overlay that in a farming context. It's really complex. So I'm so proud of the work we do in the farm debt space. And when you have people who've come to us, or the banks have come and said, look, can you do this for this farmer? And they walk away with hope when they didn't have hope, even if it's a changed future, even if it's
that's right.
Ideally what they would have liked or what they hoped for. But
they're moving forward.
They're moving forward, and they've got hope, and, they've kind of wrestled with the worst of the situation and, they're moving forward, as you put it perfectly.
Oh, that's just really insightful. What is that broad acre farming right down to smaller properties? I know that's a question without notice, but
it's a whole range of basically almost. They changed the legislation a few years ago to make it pretty much every type of farming in Victoria, effectively, and it has to be for farming purposes as well too. So there's some complexity around what's in and what's out. But if any of your listeners are interested, we've got a heap of information on our website at vsbc.vic.gov.au. So I'd encourage them to jump in and have a squiz.
Yeah, and we'll leave all those links because your website has got some really good information on it, but we'll put all those links in the episode notes as well. As we're sort of coming to the end of the podcast, what is one thing you love about your role? I mean, is it meeting business owners? Is it policy changes? Is it advocacy? Is it a mix? What do you love?
Yeah, it is a mix. It's meeting the people. It's meeting the people and hearing the stories, and people are just so genuine and honest and candid with how they the goods and the bads, and then being able to take that and then translate that into what can happen behind the scenes to make their life hopefully easier and hopefully much better as well too. So, and just I constantly get energized. I take my energy, not like in a vampiric way, sucking it out of them, I take so much energy from our small business operators, like their entrepreneurial spirit and their grit and their get up and go. And no one goes into small business, right, because this is going to be cruisy. That's going to be amazing. I really want a cruisy, easy life. Or if they do, don't. That's
it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. But it's like the passion and the sparkle in the eyes.
Yes.
Like I love seeing when I'm often saying to small business people, like, tell me what you do, what, and the sparkle in their eye when they talk about their particular business and how proud they are of it. I grew up in a small business household, and we lived the highs and lows of all of that stuff, including the worst of the 90s recession. So I just love being able to connect with our small business operators and hopefully make their life a little bit easier.
I think having that insight, I suppose, sets you up for you in that role, because there's nothing worse than having somebody that can't walk the walk or talk the talk when they are talking to small business owners. So, I think it's nice to have that background.
Absolutely. And I was laughing the other day. I was telling someone about how one of my jobs when I was little was, the old calculators with the paper, the all the numbers popped out the end, my mum would be doing calculations for the business, and then it would be my job to cross-check those numbers and all this kind of stuff. And I'm terrible at numbers, so I'm not sure how much I helped or hindered. But that was kind of part of my job. And and anyway, it was, my dad was in commercial construction. And so every time we'd go into the city, I'm the baby of four, we'd all lean sideways and tease Dad that the buildings were crooked. But he still to this day, he's in his 80s, he'll still go, oh, I built that. It's so, I just love that too. It's like the cleaner at NASA. What do you do? I'm putting a rocket on the moon. Like my dad they did a part of it, but he'll be like, oh, I built that. And I was just, it's awesome.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for catching up with me today on the podcast. I've really enjoyed your honesty and your true form of advocacy and telling our stories. And, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. So thank you, Lynda. I hope the rest of your week is awesome.
Oh, pleasure. And thanks, Sam. Always awesome to catch up with you. And, please, any of your listeners, don't hesitate to reach out to us at the Commission if we can help in any way. And thank you for all the awesome work you all do keeping our small businesses going.
Thank you, Lynda. Have a great day.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Sam. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the 5-Minute Business Boost. For more information, follow me on socials, sign up for my newsy, or check out my website to see how we can work together to reach your small business goals. Remember, anything is possible, especially in the northeast of Victoria. Until next time, cheerio.